it lets you know that he has no concept of how you build a star.
Then stop fighting, because you can't do both.
More people watch that card because Johnny Eblin and Costello Vanstinas and Dakota Sheva were on that card. I wanted to say this because it's kind of, I was going to do my own little thing on it, but I wanted to do it with you just because I want to, like, the UFC. Do you believe the UFC dodged a bullet by letting Francis Ngannou go?
Do I believe that they dodged a bullet?
Yeah. With all the comments that Francis has been putting out lately, the Don Davis situation, like I was upset when he didn't come to the PFL Africa, and then Francis saying he was upset because the African fighters were on the prelims. John, the reason why I'm saying this, and I love Francis, I think he's a fantastic fighter. I think he's been great for the sport. But these little things, when it came to contract negotiations with the UFC, it lets you know that he has no concept of how you build a star. He has no concept of how a promotion is run. He has no concept on how you make these African fighters that he's trying to prop up by putting them on the main card. If they didn't have great performances, which they did, by the way, they had fantastic performances.
Yeah.
But if they didn't, now you have a bunch of fighters that no one knows fighting right below or on the main event above fighters that are better or have bigger names than them. That's a problem.
That is an absolute problem. That's why you can't do it. If you're the promotion, you've got to, especially on your main card, you can always stick a name in there that nobody knows against the name that everybody knows. You can do that. But if that name that nobody knows doesn't perform well, then people are saying that the promotion is doing what? Oh, they're just stacking the card because they want that guy to win and stuff like that. So you always play this balance game. And I agree with you in that, that card for PFL Africa, which was the Johnny Eblin versus Costello for their main event. Look, they had some really good fights on that. They had Dakota there, and you've got to try to put out your best people, so you hopefully come up with your best fights, and people get to see your stars that you have already worked on making. You don't sit there and try to make a bunch of African fighters stars in that moment. That doesn't work. You do exactly what they did. They, did another card there in Africa, and they had a bunch of African fighters, some against each other, others, fighting, people from different countries, but that was their ability to start to make stars. Mm-hmm. And for Francis to be in the position, I'm just going to say, you can't, this all comes down to the whole thing where you're going to be part of the promotion. You're going to be doing the business side. You're going to be in charge of, PFL Africa. Then stop fighting, because you can't do both. There's no way. You want to be a fighter, put all that to the side, let the people do the work that, do that work, and you fight on those cards or wherever and build up those cards. Great. But you try to do everything, nothing gets done right.
Yeah, you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and then half-assing everything. I understand what you're saying. But this is, to me, when I say, did the UFC dodge a bullet? Because if you give them any, and this has been before, right? When it was Tito wanting more power, wanting to have more say, and they said, no, we're millions of dollars into this. Like, no, we're not getting any say. We're the ones putting our money on the line. The same situation in this, like, we're going to pay you accordingly to fight fights. Your job is to fight. Your job is not to be involved in this. So when you went to the PFL and the PFL basically gave him everything he wanted, I mean, his opponents are making $2 million.
I know. The fact that he was able to negotiate that what his opponent would be able to make facing him, you look and you go, it's not for you to decide.
No. And so when you gave somebody,
what you're going to sign your contract for.
When you give another fighter that much power, when you give a fighter that much power over your promotion and how you run it, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And as much as I want him to be involved, because I think he is a great ambassador for PFL Africa or just MMA Africa, period. You decided you wanted that. And then when they delivered it to you, you weren't happy with because they put the fighters on the prelims. I'm sorry, but the way you build younger fighters is by having the best fighters at the top and putting them right below so more people watch. more people watched that card because Johnny Eblin and Costello Vanstinas and Dakota Sheva were on that card.
Yep.
If they would have fought first and then the other fighters would have been on after, everyone would have turned it off. And we just would have watched the highlights on Instagram like most of them did anyways. So I think you've got to understand how to be a promoter. And your business is to be a fighter, not to be a promoter. Focus on that. Like now you're not fighting PFL anyways. You're trying to get the Deontay Wilder fight. Yeah. They did you a solid by giving you everything you wanted.
And you've only fought one fight.
You've only given them one fight. And so it baffles me. And now what it is doing though too, it's validating everything that Dana had said. It was hard to deal with. They just wanted this, they wanted that, and like we were willing to give them as much as we could, but without giving them control.
Yeah,
and that makes sense as a promotion that you guys are a $1 billion business.
Look, the UFC for years has been in positions where they wanted fighters, and look, they wanted Francis as a fighter. You know, they were willing to pay him, you know, good money and stuff, but then they're not into having Francis as a business partner. It's no different than when they wanted Fedor. Look, they wanted Fedor. They were willing to pay Fedor a ton of money.
They wanted Fedor more than probably any other fighter they've ever wanted.
Absolutely.
Brock Lesnar maybe equal, if not a little bit more, maybe Brock, but
right
somewhere in there.
But you know, it was not Fedor himself, but it's Fedor's team at the time were asking for things as far as control. And the UFC, no, we're not doing that. And they have repeatedly shown we will go this far. We will not cross that line. And they're not going to cross that line. And that's why they ended up losing, you know, and Francis, Francis is a wonderful person. He's a great guy. But sometimes, you know, you're putting the cart before the horse. You're a fighter. Be the fighter. And then you want to be part of something else. Great. Do it. Set yourself up for it. There's ways of doing it behind the scenes to get yourself in there. You don't have to do it in a contract negotiation while you're fighting. But, you know, I look at it and I truthfully believe the UFC, I mean, the UFC, yeah, they're glad they don't have the bullshit. They would love to have the fighter.
Yeah.
You know, they want a quality heavyweight. But if you're the PFL has done nothing wrong as far as this whole thing. The PFL is in a position where they've done him a solid more times than he's done for them. So, you know, the fact that he didn't show up doesn't look good.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just validating what Dana was saying. Difficult to deal with. Yeah. Wants more than he gives. You know, fusses about everything like that. That sucks because I don't know him as personally as you do, like, you know, but I mean, I've been in passing. He's super nice, easy to talk to.
Super guy.
You know, seems like a great person. But there's two sides to every story. Like if you talk to Frank Shamrock when he was younger, he was great to talk to.
Oh, yeah.
You get into any business with that dude.
Pain in the ass.
Fucking what a pain in the fucking ass. Right?
He knew what he wanted.
Matter. It could be over $20 for a t-shirt.
Yeah.
He was ready to kick your ass or try to kick your ass for fucking $20 over a t-shirt. That was Frank Shamrock. In this situation, I just feel like there's a little bit of validation now from Dana and the UFC saying like, you know, what Don Davis and the PFL are having to go through. Yeah. And we set this up for you. You wanted this, and we're happy. We're happy
you asked for it.
We're happy to do it. That's the thing. We're delivering what you asked for, and then you didn't show. And then let you know that he doesn't know what he's doing when it comes to the promotion side of it. You're a fighter. Be a fighter. Learn the promotion business side of it. Be more involved. I used to follow Scott Coker around, you know, and be like, hey, like, what are you doing? Rich Chow, Mike Kogan. I always asked him, like, what exactly do you do? Like, where do you meetings? Like,
yeah, because you don't do much.
They do. You know, I'd meet up with Coker all the time for coffee in the morning. We'd talk about the day, talk about, you know, what was going on for events, whatever it was coming up. I always wanted to know his brain, how it worked. And the same thing with Kogan, and the same thing with, I think Kogan kind of got irritated with me because I'd always ask a lot more personal questions. But Rich Chow was, we would just chat it up, and Rich was really good at keeping things back that he knew couldn't be out, and talking to me about a lot of other things. And just there's certain things you got to keep close to the vest, and you have to know as a friend, not just as a friend, but just as a company person too, not to be sharing that infocyte with him. With Francis, he needs to learn that side of the business. Hang out with Mike Hogan, spend more time with him, get to know what he's actually doing. Hang out with the fighter ops guys. You got MJ there, man. MJ is probably one of the best in the business as a fighter ops guy. I would hang out with MJ and see exactly what those guys go through when fighters are fucking late, don't make weight. Fucking their teams and stuff are getting in fights and scuffles in the back. And you got too many people inside the cage. You're jumping over the cage, running into the crowd. These are all fighter ops problems they've got to deal with. So learning the business, learning how it all goes about and how much money they spend, it's important. So if you want to start telling these promotions what to do, get to know it first. Be like, okay, now I see this side. Don't just think it just happens.
Yeah.
We all think it just happens. I mean, I did for a long time. So you got to learn it.